the guardian angel who saved my marriage. The guardian angel who saved my marriage. Since I was young, I was trapped by the pain of losing a loved one until I met my guardian angel. James DiBello emphasizes that he grew up in a deeply Catholic family, where they lived with the belief that these spiritual beings were always protecting him. In fact, his grandmother always instilled in them the custom of setting an extra place at the table for our guardian angel during the holidays. She said it was a way of thanking the angel and going to him every year. Another time, when we were at school, the nuns told us about them, and at Mass, we would leave a space for our guardian angel before sitting on the pew. One of the first phrases I learned, he said, "Angel of God, my dear guardian, to whom God's love commits me, be at my side this day to rule and guard me, to light and guide me, Amen." This warm spiritual connection ended when I was 14, in my teens, when I suffered with the unbearable fatal illness of Frank, my younger brother. I saw that Frank, since he was 8 years old, got tired easily every time he played and his skin would bruise for no reason. To cheer him up, I taught him to ride a bike, but after a while he didn't have the strength to pedal, and he spent more time in the hospital. I didn't know it then, but he had leukemia. I remember the most bitter moment I experienced with my parents was one day they came crying from the hospital with the sad news of Frank's death. In response, the priest who accompanied them told us that Frank's angel had taken him to paradise. I felt so desolate, I cried until I had no tears left. As soon as my eyes dried, a huge fury began to grow inside me, as if it were a piece of metal melting with great intensity. Why didn't my parents tell me that Frank was going to die? How could the angel allow this? I hated Frank's angel. How stupid to believe in angels, I concluded. The anger is so much, he says, that he's argued with half the world and lost a friend he punched. As much as they tried to calm him down, James kept an uncontrollable rage at the surface and added, "When my grandmother talked to me about angels, I turned my back on her, and the following autumn, on my birthday, I didn't set an extra place at the table." Sports were a good way to let out my anger. I unleashed my aggression in football and wrestling, even becoming a star athlete. Only I knew my true motivations. I was a perfectionist, so I was successful at work, and then I met Marie, who later became my wife. But the joy of starting a family and focusing my energy on them would be clouded by the anger I'd carried since I was a teenager. When I graduated from college, my anger was still there. I worked for an import-export company and I literally lived in my office for days. As you might expect, when I came home I was too tired to pay attention to Marie and our 3 kids. Even though my success at work meant we were well off, a crisis erupted, bringing with it the familiar fear of losing my family. It was Easter weekend, late at night, when Marie came into my home office and said, "James, I'm leaving you. I think I'm going to divorce you. Our marriage is a mess, and I'm tired of my husband completely shutting me out of his life. I've already taken the kids to my mother's, and now I'm going too." Marie leaving stunned him. He couldn't speak. He sank into despair and helplessness, feelings he knew all too well. It was like Frank was dying all over again and I was finding out too late, again. He reacted with what he knew, rage, which then translated into explosions of objects that had to break, like a hurricane. In the last cupboard was a stack of plates he'd used as a child. As soon as I saw them, 1,000 memories of my brother came to mind, and I felt like crying. I put them on the kitchen table and threw them, one by one, against the dishwasher. But when I got to the last plate, I couldn't lift it. It was stuck to the table. I tried with both hands, but I still couldn't do it. There I stood, panting and sweating. My hands were bleeding because I'd cut myself with a broken glass. Suddenly I froze when I heard the echo of a voice near me. "James, set a place at the table for me." Even though it was a woman's voice, kind and compassionate, I couldn't help but feel chills. I sat down and cried all the tears in my body. When I finally had the strength to wash my face, it looked like a hurricane had gone through the kitchen. And I looked at that plate, a leftover, and I heard the voice again, that beautiful voice like a soprano singing softly. "Who are you?" I asked in great amazement. "You know me, James. Set a place for me at your table." Even though I was very tired, the voice was insistent enough for me to understand who it was. When it finished, I talked non-stop with my guardian angel for hours. I can't say that I saw him at the table, but I felt his presence and he told me that my anger was gone. At that moment, I was finally able to change my life. As I came back to my senses, I tried to lift the plate one last time and I did it without difficulty. I put it at the end of the table, where I used to sit. Around it, I placed a knife, fork and spoon, a napkin, and an aluminum cup that had survived my outburst. Finally, I pulled up a chair. I sat down and stayed there. I spent a long time looking at the place I had set, and the most incredible feeling of peace washed over me. Then I bowed my head and repeated the prayer I had learned with my brother. Angel of God, my dear guardian. I was home alone when suddenly I heard the door lock turning. It was Marie, who, also alerted by a voice, was told to come and help her husband. She told me she had been crying. She couldn't sleep. It was like she kept hearing a voice repeating over and over, "James needs you, Marie." So she came. With emotion, James shares that he is healed. Then he organized and cleaned up the mess, but without saying a word, I tried to offer her an apology, but she shook her head. Then suddenly, Marie asked why there was a place setting at the table. She asked me why I had broken everything in the kitchen and then had gone to the trouble of setting a place at the table. When I finished telling her the whole truth, she became thoughtful, and said, "Indeed, you are different. There's no tension in you anymore." Amazed, James asked her to keep setting a place for him at the dinner table. If my angel hadn't come last night, I don't know what I would have done. I want to keep remembering something I knew as a child, but had forgotten. Even though those strange events happened one night over 40 years ago, James and Marie have rebuilt their marriage. Our children have their own families, so now we enjoy our grandchildren here on earth, and those waiting for us in paradise. I left my job to start my own business, and every night I set a place at the table, with the old cup, the silverware and the aluminum napkins with the scalloped edges. They represent a commitment to God, and a way of telling my guardian angel that he's always welcome at my table.